Hello, I need to turn audio back up, so yeah. Anyways, welcome back here today. It's Cryptic Racing League Season 2, Round 4 for the Elite Division. It's quite a awkward one since I'm streaming on my personal, just since I don't have time to set up the alternate account. So yeah. But anyways, so yeah, you have got it on my personal rather than my commentary dedicated. Do not worry, same guy. But yeah, it's just different face for today. As I said, didn't have time to set up personal account. I literally ended up setting up lobby up 15 minutes early and then been dealing with a bunch of stuff. Just never really had time to in fact change the account. So anyways, it's Mexico here today. It's season 2 round 4 of this championship out in Mexico. Unfortunately, first to third and the drivers are all not present. That's Marco, Mems and Kaname. Unfortunately, they're all unavailable for today. Some struggling with internet issues, some struggling with alternate family commitments. So, your championship leader out of these lot is DJ Taylor in the Williams today. Their reserve driver, then it's Thomas James tied on points with them in this McLaren, which you're about to see go round for the first lap of this evening as they work their way up towards turn 1 now. Can Thomas James set a representable lap? He kind of needs this, just due to the fact that he is of course the lead driver and carrying McLaren in the championship. So yeah, it's a good first sector. It's a 28.4 for the McLaren as they now work their way out of turn 5 up towards turn 6 and 7. Hold it right, open up the front end as they push down the micro straight into the left, then through the S's. Yellow flag in the final sector. That was Harrison prepping themselves going through the stadium section. Thomas James now DRS wide open. It's a 57.2 after the first 2 sectors. It's looking fairly decent so far. Heavy on brakes into the stadium, turned the car in left then right. Quite a nice and flowing section, also fairly quick in terms of the steering inputs and throttle inputs. Anyways, up to the line for the McLaren. It's a 1:16.7 to kickstart this qualifying session, as your next car on a lap is Kian, who's on the intermediate, thinking that inverted pole is a thing. He's got a Williams of DJ Taylor behind, who probably would not be liking this whatsoever. The Mercedes cut the corner, basically saying you can go by, as DJ Taylor rounding out the final corner up towards the line. How much has that hindered their lap? For the Williams, it's not hindered them much whatsoever. It's a 15.6. Zezin Domar, however, goes half a second quicker. Then you have got Harrison going into the final sector now. The McLaren doing a fairly decent lap, could try and see themselves in amongst the top 3 out of the final corner up towards the start finish line for the McLaren. It's a 15.2 already straight up there as a local chemist has started a run. You have got Ali Nipdal, however, on an invalidated lap. And then you've also got Fire Striker, who's on a lap of their own so far. Currently in the Alpine. They haven't had too much in this season as a whole. But when they raced the last time out, they ended up retiring due to commitments, and it's a 17.2 for them. You've then got Sahil going through the middle sector. You've also got Ramati setting the sectors alight, a 56.679 from the Haas drivers. They now go out of the stadium. This is all about getting to the line as quickly as possible using the shortest route possible. Over the line goes the Haas, and it's a 15.888. It's enough for 4th fastest there, as you have got a local chemist hoping to put themselves quite high up on the map, give themselves a name as round the final corner over the line. It's a 15.7 for the Racing Bulls driver. Hussein 28.0 in the first sector. Ali Nickdal just trying to get to the pit lane in that Ferrari. As if you're wondering why Mad Max has already retired, it's because they got a bit mad out in Brazil and retired on track during the course of qualifying, as Zez and Domar questioning what the Williams of Sahil was doing. And I don't think they got a definite answer whatsoever, as I believe it could have been a hindrance on that Haas driver's lap. Rounding out the final corner for Mercedes over the line, they are going to go. What will it be for Hussein? It'll be a 16.5 for them. It's an okay run, to say the least, as most of these drivers just trying to get to the finish line as quickly as they can. But you have got Kian going through the Mexican S's, going to be doing a push lap in a couple of moments time. As through there doing their final prep, and now it's push for the Mercedes. Rounding the final corner up towards turn 1, they're going to go. They now deploy their battery up towards the DRS zone, opens up that rear wing as they continue to push it along up towards turn 1 under the F1 branded bridges, and then heavy on the brakes into the right hander they go, and then it's a lovely little chicane all about keeping the car between those white lines, which the Mercedes does so. DRS wide open once again as they continue to run to turns 4 and 5. It's an okay first sector. It's not anything too amazing, as it says they're on an outlap again, even though they were just on an outlap. So I don't know what that's about, but we've got Martin Moore on a push lap in the Red Bull. Let's hope we don't have the same thing happen to them as what happened to Kian, whilst this driver continuing to make the push matter up towards the middle sector. So 28.1 in the first part, going through the left, then the right, now back on throttle up towards turns 6 and 7, holds it for the double right-hander, then back on the power all the way up to the next part of the lap, where it's relentlessly chucking the cars through each and every corner. It's all about keeping it poised, as that's what the Red Bull is hoping to do, which they do so. DRS wide open, heading to the final sector. It's a 56.5 after the first 2 sectors. It's a decent run so far, could be putting themselves in amongst the top 4 in this qualifying session. Remember, the top 5 bag points in qualifying, so this is where it all matters. As Martin over the line, it's a 16.0 for the Red Bull. Ali Nickdal on a push, while Zez and Domar 4 tenths up on their lap. Can the Brazilian go to the top step of this starting grid? They round out the final corner. They'll make the run up to the line. What will it be for the Haas? It'll be a new fastest lap of 14.7 for them. Harrison on an invalidated run, whilst Thomas James over the line to go 9th over Hussein. Martin cutting a few corners, whilst Ramati's pushing. You've got DJ Taylor pushing as well. He's 2 tenths up on their current personal best for Williams, Williams having a fairly okay season. They're 8th in the championship on 29 points. One team waiting to score points is Mercedes. As things stand, they'll be doing so at the end of quali. DJ Taylor over the line to go P2. A miraculous attempt for them as Ali Nickdal finally putting a lap on the board for the Ferrari, a 16.556. Not anything to go representing themselves about. But now this is where all the drivers just sit and wait to get it all over and done with. Sahil pushing up through the first sector, whilst also you've got no one else on a push. It's just Sahil who's a tenth and a quarter down. Chuck it through the right hander, back on the throttle to the double right. Tap the apexes as you go along, open up on the exit, then darting down the back. Well, not really back straight, down the side straight we'll call it, and then through the Mexican S's, giving us a little bit of flamenco dancing here in Mexico rather than typical ballroom, as that is really what it is. It's quite crazy and berserk, then heavy on the brakes, quite bassy this part of the lap. Yes, I'm trying to make it all musical terms, talking about music. Spotify Wrapped released today, if you aren't aware. Sahil crossing the line to go 8 thousandths quicker than their personal best. An amazing attempt indeed. But Hussein also on the lap. They've got Kian just behind. I believe that Mercedes gave their teammate a tow into the first corner. That tow giving them 66 thousandths in the first sector. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when it comes to qualifying, especially when it can be so close, just like Harrison and Ramati in second and third, you need those 66 thousandths to promote yourself up a place. However, Hussein continuing on through the right, then into the left. They aren't going too hyper aggressive in terms of pacing. After the first 2 sectors, it's 8 tenths down, so something has incredibly gone wrong there. Whilst for Fire Striker, 45 thousandths of a second improvement for the Alpine, going into the S's now, as this could be a feisty lap. Of course, the Alpine slowest of all so far, but after the first 2 sectors, it's looking better for themselves. 2.5 tenths up, enough to try and match them, with some people putting themselves within the 16s, as they're the only driver running a 17, whilst Zezin's the only driver running a 14, showing how quite cyclical this grid is. As over the line for Fire Striker, it's a 16.7 for the Alpine driver. Kian on a push, 92 thousandths up in the first sector, an absolute best sector to go along with it. Can the Mercedes continue that momentum around the lap? However, we'll find out. Going through the left, then shimmy it through the S's. As yeah, it's all about getting that throttle down and pinned. After the first 2 sectors, it's a quarter of a second improvement. It's going quite decently for the Mercedes, who could be possibly going to the front row on their CRL debut, which would be a statement and a half to make here today. Round the final corner, up towards the start finish line they go, and it'll be Kian only going second fastest with 15.007 for them. Thomas James on the medium compounder tyres, doing a push lap here. It's a 10th up, so don't get me wrong, it is working for the man in the papaya outfit. However, their teammate, who's making their debut this season, is already third on the grid for them, looking like they're very much up to pacing. As Zezin Domar is very much looking at their first ever pole position here in CRL. He's only in his 3rd race as well, making it just such a miraculous milestone. As Thomas James continuing to push around their hot lap. Mad Max writing a whole essay. He turned around and said Sahil is just a noob. Anyways, Thomas James around the final corner. It is 44 thousandths quicker, and therefore still P9, but at 1 minute 16.2 flat for the McLaren driver. And now the final 2.5 minutes here in qualifying. Harrison about to start their possibly final push lap of this session. Up towards turn 1 they go, battery and DRS in use as they try and fly down the main straight up towards the first corner, a straight where you can hit the highest top speeds on the F1 calendar, through the first corner, tapping the apex, then trying to jump over those curbs as much as possible, just showing how strengthy that ride height of the cars are. Anyways, down to the middle sector, it's a 27.960 in the first part of the lap. It's only 55 thousandths improvement, but it is one of the quicker first sectors we've seen out of that top 4, as they now continue out of turn 7 up towards turn 8 into the left, fling it across, then back across to the right, then trying to ease it out a bit, put less strain on those tyres because you were just beating them, and then it's invalidated. Heartbreak for the McLaren, whilst Ramati about to do a push lap now up towards start finish line. They go overtake open as they go up towards the first corner now. This is probably your first set of endgame runs here in Mexico. Can Ramati go to the top step? However, they're currently 4 tenths off or whatever, but they're sitting in 4th, accompanying their teammate quite nicely, who is sitting on provisional pole. Harrison has retired from qualifying, and it looks like they're in the pit lane just about, as Ramati 27.8 is a 10th improvement. It's a good start to this final run, whilst for Harrison, at best it will be 3rd place on the grid for the Papaya outfit, as up towards the first, nope, heavy on the brakes. They've backed out of this push. I don't think they'll get another attempt at it today. So we'll ride on with Hussein, who's 11 thousandths up in the first sector. The Mercedes hoping to push a bit further along, as Harrison has retired on track. I believe that ended up being moved out from where they were. However, Hussein continuing on. Will Ramati get a lap? No, he won't. I don't think there's time. Yes, there's no time, so Ramati out of qualifying. He's P4, whilst Harrison P3 at best. Can Hussein try and put themselves in the middle? There's quite a bit of time to find if he wanted to do so over the line. In the Mercedes, it's P8 for them, whilst Matin goes to 7th. Zezin Domar very slightly improving over the line now in the Haas, and this 8 thousandths improvement, it's enough to reassert themselves on that top step. Sahil a quarter of a second up over the line. The Williams goes 6th fastest, their teammate sitting in 5th. Out the final corner, 10.5 improvement. Can they go to the front row maybe? Crossing the line now, and it's only 5th fastest for them. They didn't improve come the end when it mattered the most. They failed to succeed, as Fire Striker crossing that line P12. Kian is giving it their absolute all. However, it's their personal best in the middle sector, fastest middle sector of this session so far, rounding out the final corner over the line, and it's not going to be enough, but it's enough to keep himself on that front row and even break the 114 barrier. As Zezin Domar said, he messed up turn 4, hence why, and then Taylor lost 1.5 tenths in the final corner. So it's Zezin who lines up on pole, followed by Kian. Then it's Harrison in 3rd, 4th is Ramati, 5th DJ Taylor, 6th Sahil, 7th a local chemist, 8th Matin Moore, 9th Hussein, 10th Ali Nickdal, 11th Thomas James, 12th Fire Striker, and last but not least, it's Mad Max, who served their qualifying ban in the Sauber. But without further ado, the drivers now get a chance to grab a drink, which I unfortunately don't have the privileges to do so, since I have to entertain you lot. as now it's also their chance to design their strategies, they design their final setups that they are going to take in to these 35 laps here in Mexico. I've gave them all a minute or so to finalise it, just so then they've got a chance to think about what they want to do and then go from there. So yeah, the race start 7:30 here in the Elite Div. As now we are 5 seconds away from when they're allowed to ready up. So the question is, who is going to win? Is it going to be DJ Taylor? Is it going to be Zez Domar? Is it going to be Mad Max from last? Is it even going to be Thomas James or Fire Striker? There's so many options, yet one answer. And the drivers have now in fact readied up. So we are about to go racing, ladies and gents. We've got 1 light, 2, 3, 4 and now 5. Yes, I can count, just like there's 13 on track, but we're underway now. It's Zez Domar versus Kian up towards the first corner. Who's going to make it out first, as there's yellow flags being waved almost instantly as Marty is plummeted, but Zez Domar pulled away and has Kian there, who looks to the inside, thinks better of it. Harrison follows in formation, but there's a local chemist going wide. That is not good chemistry whatsoever. But this time, unlike last week, no pile-ups in the first corner for the sake of Sahil. He's got some work to do, as there's a local chemist to the inside in the Racing Bulls, trying to take P12 in this race now, which they do so. As you can see, just a bit higher up, Mad Max, who started all the way down in P13, already up 8 and into your top 5. That's just the joys of starting on softs. As you can quickly see, 2 drivers with 10 seconds in this race. A local chemist has in fact gone round here. Whether or not they'll continue on, this is their last league race for the foreseeable future. But it's going to be Zez Domar who leads us round at the end of the first lap to push on to our second lap. Yellow flag out in the middle sector. It's Mad Max who has gone round in the Sauber, and that is going to give a local chemist someone to race around with us. DJ Taylor darting into the pit lane up towards turn 1. However, Zez Domar quite close to pulling out that second advantage over Kian, which I think he would be waiting to get almost instantly. That's Harrison just tucked in behind the Mercedes driver as well. You've got quite a few drivers, however, out here, all giving it their all in this earlier part. Which is amazing to see, though, is no constructor from the top 3 in the championship is in the top 8, those being Ferrari, Alpine and Aston Martin. I mean top 7, not top 8, because Fast Tracker is in 8th. However, you get what I mean, that there's no lead constructor. So hopefully we will see a big shake up in the championship pedestal after this round, as there's Martin going quite wide there, already 2 seconds off the leaders, as Kian 9/10ths back from Zez Domar. He's just going to be close enough to cross that detection point and be within that prized second. So it's all going to have to be done this lap ideally, otherwise Zezin may in fact get away. The Brazilian, who went from 4th on the grid all the way down to the back and then back up to 4th in the race last week, probably quickest driver out there as a whole, showing he has got what it takes. Imagine if he had round 1 to their name as well. If they did, and even Qatar, they could very much be in amongst that title fight. But today, hopefully, they'll be at least 50 points strong in this championship, looking at possibly bringing home maximum points, which is 36 for normal race, 1 for fastest lap, 5 for pole, and then 30 for the race win. That would be a dream event when Kaname, Mems and Marco all aren't present, but we'll just have to wait and see, because Kian and Harrison still sitting there. Kian luckily in 9/10 once again, the Mercedes not wanting to budge anywhere at the moment, and that is very much what we need to see here in Mexico as they work up towards the first corner once again. Kian closes in, just not able to get close enough to the Haas car, but who is close enough is Ramati to Thomas James to the inside and breezes past the McLaren to take P5, as these are just staying in that formation, trying to make it go the length in which they want it to. As currently Thomas James just not having the weekend he would hope for, or event he would hope for, shall we say, because it's only midweek, it's Wednesday, but it's a lovely day to do some league racing, especially at this quality. Of course, if you want to join, just comment or add Salva.merchant123 on Discord and you can get an invite. Just say CRL link or whatever and we'll know what you're on about. Yes, a bit of self-promo while they're all out of DRS zones, but Kian closer than he has been over the last few laps, probably closer than since the starting grid. Of course, within 4 attempts now, using DRS up towards that first corner, deploying all battery in which the Mercedes has available. They'll go to turn 1, just not close enough to get the job done, so they'll get closer through the chicane and now try and pounce up towards turn 4, the second dose of DRS this lap. There's 3 zones for detection, but the Mercedes unable to get close enough to in fact overtake the Haas driver, but they are all just sitting there pushing along, waiting rather impatiently to get the job done. And we will find out hopefully in due course whether or not the Mercedes can do so, as there's Ramati making it 2 moves in 2 laps. He overtook Thomas James on the start of lap 4, overtakes Matin only a lap later. That's the Haas now up into that top 4. A double top 4 for Haas would literally revolutionise their championship. Could be looking at 50 odd points, as the local chemist has found that V-carb around in the 3rd corner. Talking about the 3rd corner, Zezin, Omar, Kian and Harrison running in triplet, all heading up to those first 3 corners. Quite a few threes in that recent speech as Ramati pulls the trigger for a pit stop, as Zezin Omar does think it's a 2. DJ Taylor's brought up talk on a 1, however, of course, pitting in the earlier few laps forces him onto a 2. As there is Harrison, who's pulled an unorthodox move out of the bag on Kian. They're going to fight it out into turn 6 and 7. The McLaren on the inside of the Mercedes. Has they got the job done? Yes, they have. Can Kian fight back as they go through turn 8? Make that turn 9 quite quickly, as they are now trying to break the train. As Zezin finding this as the prime opportunity to extend their advantage, whilst Ali, tucked in behind Fire Striker, they haven't been able to overtake all race so far, as there's a yellow flag by the start finish line for the V-Carb, who's now into the pit lane, and they've called that quits. Unfortunate for her final league race for their foreseeable future, but not the way they would have wanted it to end, with a retirement in the bag. As in the pits, Kian, Matin and Sahil, all the HMV drivers, have pitted apart from Ali and Hussein, the Ferrari and the Mercedes pushing themselves round. As Alexis says, whoever pulled to the side into turn 1 left their race over. I'd imagine that was Raul Marti, who plummeted down the field in that house, and now back up to 8th on fresh yards as well, but 6 seconds off of Kian. As long as we've got at least 2 cars in the RS range, we have got something to talk about. That's what you have to remember when it comes to league racing. At the moment, it's Ali trying to pull away from Fire, who's had a moment into the wall there for the Alpine. Hussein goes through in the Mercedes. The Alpine drops off into their own view. Harrison trying to stay with Zezin, however, as they work their way up to the first corner. Can the Brit overtake the Brazilian? As this season's been quite Brazilian based, as of course you had Brazil last race in the Mystery GP, and then you've got here today back-to-back races in the Americas. You also had Qatar 2 races before, then Belgium as the opener. You even had Kota scheduled for the initial round 2, but that then got postponed and drawn off. You also had Spain, that also got postponed and drawn off, but now you can see consistently drivers all racing in the Elite Div. At first you could say it failed, but we all come across to prevail and make it succeed. As Harrison just trying to get their fighting tune on. I think they know how much pushing is too much pushing, as they round out the final corner now to work their way up to the first corner. They're 4 tenths off of Zezin. They've got the battery pack, unlike Kian, but Kian with the undercut, surely he's going to try and creep himself into the image some point soon, as Harrison doesn't go for a move into the first corner. Zezin's sliding around. Harrison's going to see the opportunity, tried squeezing down the inside, as there's Hussein overtaking Nickdal, but we can go back to Harrison, who works their way up towards the 4th corner. Can they go for a lunge on the Haas? They'll look to the inside. They won't go for it this time. They had the opportunity staring them right in the face, but they knew not to. Whilst the other McLaren, probably not their best of races, currently sitting in P3. As we now have one less in CRL. A local chemist has now fully departed from the server, which isn't ideal, but they've picked education over, so that's fully fair enough. Up towards the first corner, there you go. Harrison versus Zezin. No move made. As again, it's another wasted opportunity, but Kian to the inside of their teammate, and that is the Mercedes up and through into P4. A nice little move done and very well executed for them. As I'll be brutally honest, does not look like there'll be much to report this race. Hasn't seen too much apart from lap 1 where it got a bit scruffy, a bit nip and tuck. Despite all that, it's been rather smoothly sailing. However, coming out the final corners once again, does either of the leaders pit? They both commit to stay out. Surely the McLaren's thinking about it in the upcoming laps. They're sitting in that dirty air of the Haas driver who's led since qualifying, since they put their first lap of the day down. They have been the quickest, and it's not really been too much of a question about it. So now, can Harrison finally change that script, get past against Zezin? No, they won't. As Harrison still pushing on though, he's going to the inside there as Ali has retired from the race in the Ferrari. I believe that is their event over in the pit lane. As it in fact isn't. That's rather interesting to see. A rather long pause on the start-finish straight. And now just walking up to that first corner. However, Harrison having that big moment. Zezin now 3 seconds clear of the McLaren. Surely they take this as an opportunity to pit. Into the pit comes Zezin, into the pit comes Harrison. Both not really knowing where the pit entry is either. So that is cool. But now, Kian is your race leader. Jesus, didn't think I was going to be yawning at this time of night. However, there's Ralmati overtaking Hussein. Ralmati ahead of their teammate Zezin. But Zezin on 1 less stop at the moment. Well, on 1 stop but 6 less lap old tyres. So now up to turn 1, you've got Thomas James just coming up ahead of Fire Striker. You've got them tucked in behind Sahil and Martin just tucked in behind them, as they are in their own little kerfuzzle. But Thomas James looking quite racy on those mediums. Up towards the 4th corner, to the inside goes Thomas James. They're going to try and make the lunge, as unfortunately didn't work out in the McLaren's favour. Fire Strike instead making a lunge. Thomas James to the inside once again and ahead of Fire Striker. That's the McLaren into P7 once more. Didn't really last too long whatsoever between them, but Harrison all over the back end of Hussein. The McLaren probably being held up as a road mark of Hussein very much there in place. Up towards the first corner, Harrison up and through on the Mercedes. They can now try and hunt back down the likes of Zezin Domar, who is, well, was the leader. Ali says something's wrong with their pedals, hence why they've called their race over. There's Martin overtaking Fire Striker. Thomas James just using the toe of the Williams to get P6, didn't manage to do so. They're probably going to look at it once again. Into the next corner we go. Thomas James closing in. He'll look to the inside, but late move there by Sahil as Thomas James swoops around the outside. The McLaren is through. And that is a very nicely done move for the McLaren, their teammate P4. McLaren must be loving this event, as it will be them hunting down the likes of Red Bull and Aston Martin in the constructors, whilst Alpine scoring little and Ferrari also scoring little. As long as Fast Striker finishes this race, Alpine will be your constructors leaders into the next race. As Martin, 3-second track limit penalty for the Red Bull man. Not what they want to be seeing at this point in the race, as Ramati being overtaken by Zezin as Hussein finally pits on lap 13. That's the longest stint of this race so far for the Mercedes. They're hoping to make the one-stop work. So Hill to the outside and breezes past, with the two Mercedes definitely finding a newly found purpose. They've had reserves all season long, apart from the season opener where it didn't really go their way whatsoever. But Mercedes have just been reserves all season. They've now finally had two drivers who can consistently race. And for the sake of Hussein, he is hoping that it works in their favour. But Fast Striker 3 seconds for track limits as well. And the Alpine at the back of the train starting to fall back. Does look like their hopes are beginning to fade, especially for that top 7 they've been waiting to gain. As for Fast Striker, their best finish, if I can even see it on here. No, it doesn't state. I believe it's about P8. As Ramati has retired from 4th in the Haas car. Don't know why they're always such highly placed in the in the pecking order, then they retire. Just see no point in racing it. As there's Martin to the outside of the Hill and Thomas James. That's the Red Bull into 4th. So now 10 remain, 10 to score. Who will end up getting it in the end? In what order as well? Is what we will be finding out in due course. As you can see, Sahil holding a bit of wing damage in that Williams car. Not something you'd want to be seeing whatsoever. As they go through the S's, Martin leading them along. Can Sahil go for a move on the Red Bull? They're a bit too far back to do so. Whilst for the likes of Thomas James, he's probably enjoying it more than hating it. 6th place at the moment for the McLaren. Definitely doing a decent job for the team, regarding they are sitting in 3rd and 6th today. But then at the same time, Haas could have had a massive points haul. But then Zezin, upset by their teammate who chose to retire just over a lap or so ago, making it possible 1-4, 1-3 become at best a singular point scorer, which again is not how the team wants to be ran. Unfortunately, that is the way it goes. But we are quite quickly approaching the halfway stage in this race. If you want to follow, follow. If you don't, that's up to you, as you've got 10 drivers left here today. And I'm slowly going insane. However, we are going to be waiting and seeing how long this will go between these lot, just because they're all so tightly compact out on the grid. But yeah, the effort slowly fading, I'd say. As, yeah, now Zezin slowly starting to catch Kian. You can tell I'm not really in the commentator's position today as such, just not in the flow. However, you've got some just to sit there and talk about it, which is always nice. Feel free to message in chat, talk to me about your day, I'll respond. As this group has split up, unfortunately. Mad Max, however, he started in 13th, currently running 10th. The issue with that, it's still the last of your runners, Thomas James in the pits. Could that be their final stop here today? Fire Striker on those mediums as well. And also into the pits in that Alpine. They're hoping to try and cut back through with that undercut. Whilst DJ Taylor could be under some threat soon by Hussein. The Williams are on 16 lap old hards, most likely looking at a stop sometime soon in this race. The longer they can of course take it, the better it is for their latter half. But yeah, through the S's, trying to get it all back intact for the Mercedes. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. I'm genuinely going insane. But yeah, you've got Sahil closing back into that DRS range of Matin for 4th. Could the Red Bull be overtaken by the Williams sometime soon? We'll keep an eye out on this, whilst Mad Max keeping up with Hussein on those extremely old hards. But yeah, as things come, things also go. Now, we just sit and wait, because Zez and Omar has came around. Harrison has had a spin, but will stay with the leaders as they go to the outside in turn 1 on Kian. That's the Haas up and through. They've had some time of hunting. The Hunter has eventually came out on top here today though, as now Kian can just continue on in the way they were going and probably go for another stop and then put Zezin back on that back foot. It's just going to be a back and forth race there as Harrison into the pits, coming out just behind Sahil, whilst DJ Taylor limping down that pit lane. It's a shame for Harrison though, only an 8 lap old stint on those hards, but hopefully the final 16 or so laps is absolute maximum push for the McLaren driver. That's really what the Papaya outfit need today. As yeah, they really do look like they'll be scoring quite healthy, but at the same time probably not as much as they would hope. Kian into the pits reacting to Harrison, doesn't want to be taken down by that McLaren, but you can just see there's Harrison to the inside before the corner, just breezes by before braking as well. But the McLaren heavily locks up. There will be talks about that move, whether or not that was fully legal, because it did look like he carried a bit too much speed into the corner, out of control car, and that's what gained him the place. So Hill into the pits, however, they're like, I might as well try and trigger that undercut. With 15 or so laps left in this race, it's Zez Omar who leads to Kian, but Kian is eyeing up a hunt for your lead. Whether or not he can succeed, we will find out. Indeed. Yes, a few little rhymes for you lot. But there, Sir Hill coming out right in front of their teammate. Not ideal for Williams whatsoever. DJ Taylor going deep in that first corner, probably as a repercussion. And then Fire Strike all over the back of the Williams car. The Alpine going to be giving it their absolute best, as it's DJ Taylor hanging on to the back of Sir Hill. Zezendomar has in fact pitted as well. He's reacting to the Mercedes. He knows exactly what is going on at the Silver Arrows HQ. He knows that it's going to be a hunt to the end. So Zezin has pitted, and there's Kian, who is a fair way back. It'll be Zezendomar, who now continues on as your race leader today. But then these three going at it, all fairly new hard compounder tyres, which I can guarantee you they'll be happy with. As Martin into the pits as well, where will they come out compared to these lot? They've all been looking like they're on fairly decent pace in this race. As Fire Striker gets a penalty, so Hill being a bit squabblish out of the final corner. Is that going to leave them wide open for DJ Taylor, who goes up to the first corner? There's Martin coming out of the pits. Can Sir Hill continue with that extra pace? It'll be 3 wide into the first corner, but DJ Taylor comes out as the leading Williams. Martin on the inside, he'll have the outside for turn 2. So Hill instead being attacked by Fire Striker. Can the Alpine succeed? They will succeed on the Williams. It's been an absolute nightmare for Sir Hill. It could have been P7 out of the first 3 corners. Instead, it is the last place of the runners, which just shows it has not gone their way whatsoever here in Mexico. As now Fire Striker just has to try and hold on with Martin, as DJ Taylor pulling away in that Williams. The 2 or so laps on those hards playing somewhat dividends in this race. But can the Red Bull get close enough to the back end of the Williams to try and pile that pressure on once again? Remember, they're on the fresher tyres in all, so it will have to be whether or not they can or not. Whilst Kian also entering DRS range of Zezendomar. Could we see a fight for the win here today as well? Would be very much wanted by the fans, as there was Sir Hill trying to get a move on Fire Strike into the first corner. The Brit in the Alpine just able to hold on for the time being, but there'll be an attempt into the second corner. You can just see how much quicker that Williams is until Fire Striker starts deploying some battery to the inside. Goes Sir Hill. They'll push their way through, but they won't be able to. Fire Striker just able to keep that car ahead and on the iceberg for the time being. Very much nicely done for Fire Striker. That's P9 for them now, as they've dropped back out of the DRS range of Martin. Could Martin be thinking about this as if he's Carlos Sainz? He knows that Sir Hill will probably be just as quick in that Williams, so could they try and cover him off and back him up in this race? As they go around the final corner, Fire Striker just outside that DRS range on Sir Hill, so the Williams will use DRS this time round. Up towards the first corner goes. Can they put that pressure on? They'll look to that inside. You can see Martin all the way to the inside trying to get out the dirty air whatsoever. Not the dirty air, get out the towing position whatsoever. As the Hill now DRS once again up towards the fourth corner, I mean. To the inside they'll go. They tried this last lap. It ended up in some contact. It will end up in contact this time, but Sir Hill will get ahead, and Fire Striker in a half spin. Zezendomar, your fastest man out on track, pretty much puts to bed the hopes for Kian, as that Haas really has started putting pedal to the metal, and now cruising away to look at their first ever win in their time in CRF, whilst Haas just doing all they can in this championship at the moment. They know that it's going to be quite excruciating with only 2 races after this. You've got Abu Dhabi next week, then Silverstone the following one. It's a shortened season because the 2 earlier cancelled races, and also trying to sync it with season 3. For Europe in general, you're of course going to be having the Oceanic divisions coming in during the next few months, and the American div, that's slowly in the works, where hopefully you'll see even more high-end racing out of these drivers. But for the time being, Sahil holding their ground in P9. Here in Mexico, you can look a bit further up, and you've got the likes of Thomas James and DJ Taylor, but Martin closing into that papaya as well. Harrison's still in P3, running a fairly lonely race now in that McLaren, whilst Kian still has Zezin in their sights. I'm back. Sorry about that. But yeah, time running out for the drivers. Martin has overtaken Thomas James, and Harrison and Mad Max have both retired from the race. Looks like Harrison's done it unnaturally, because you hardly see cars go down the pit lane and retire there. Not 100% sure on how Mad Max did so either. I will in fact try and watch the stream back a bit as well, just so I can see, whilst also commentating, just since I wasn't there. Mad Max messaging in chat as well at the moment. Mad Max had a spin and right where like Thomas James and that was. And then do they make it to the pit lane, or do they choose not? But yeah, you can just see those cars going around at the moment, kind of all in that fight for the podium, since Hussein in third on 15 lap old hards. It's Mercedes giving it their best shot at a double podium here now, whilst the Red Bulls and McLaren's trying to chase them down. DJ Taylor also trying to get it, as yeah, Max did it in the pits. Harrison also did it in pits, so yeah, can't fault them. But now 7 laps left of the 36, and only one driver can win. It will be Zezin Domar by the looks of it. However, you then have this battle raging on in the midfield of the current running. 8 drivers left of the 13 who started. However, who will manage to get it in the end? As it does look like Hussein just having that upper hand, because Martin currently being pressured by Thomas James in this race. As the McLaren knows that they've got a podium on the cards, but so does the Red Bull know that they have it on debut as well. Then Hussein, he's trying to put in a good place for the Mercedes team. As there's Thomas James to the inside of Martin up towards the first corner. Can they finally get by? Yes, they will. Thomas James is now ahead of the Red Bull, but now the next car is the first Mercedes, of course their teammate, a good 43 seconds up the road. The likelihood in which they have a little swap around, practically nil. However, you've got one Mercedes second, the other one could come home 6th and still have them skyrocket up through the standings. Whether or not they will do so, we will find out. As yeah, it's just been quite smoothly going. It's been a fair slow burner today. As Mad Max, outraged by the collision with DJ Taylor, which is quite petty since the Williams hasn't done anything wrong. last race when Mad Max made their debut, and they also really haven't done much wrong this race, but that's from what I've seen. Also, I love how Mad Max had to put it in quotation marks. However, there was a lock up there by DJ Taylor, the two Williams holding some front right wing damage as well. They're kind of running around in unison, sitting in 6th and 7th, but you can just tell that DJ Taylor driving quite decently. I'd say Thomas James 3 seconds for track limits. It helps the Mercedes even more, but you can also see Martin with 9 seconds just constantly exploiting those track limits. DJ Taylor getting a bit squirrelish is the right word there as we enter the final 4 laps for these lot. Lap 33 of 36. But it has honestly been a walk in the park for Zezin and Kian. Kian's got 9 seconds of track limit penalty now as Thomas James looks to the inside of Hussein, unable to get past that Mercedes, instead goes deep, and there's Martin round the outside of the McLaren. DJ Taylor now trying to strike a place up into P5 goes the Williams. They're now looking like they could have a podium on their playing cards today, as they just have to get past Martin and then get past Hussein. Even if Martin or Thomas James finish in 3rd, the Williams just has to be within at least 3 seconds to guarantee that podium. Of course, for Martin, it changes a bit to 9 seconds as they are jumping over the curbs. DJ Taylor now gets 3 seconds, so it's Hussein who's in prime position, as there's Thomas James trying to go to the outside of the Williams. They succeed in doing so as Kian going slow. It's a Mercedes slamming that wall. Don't know what they're really intending. As yeah, I'm just kind of confused about that mannerism there. But Martin versus Hussein. Hussein to the inside of the Red Bull holding on ahead. But yeah, it looks like, yeah, the Mercedes definitely going slow. Are they trying to sacrifice their race for Hussein? Or is there a puncture somewhere? There's not a puncture. I'm just bedazzled at the moment what Kian is thinking in their mind, because they were going to be bringing home P3 and P2 almost irrespective, as long as Hussein didn't get another penalty. Kian now slowly picking up the speed. As now they have sped up. What's going to be happening here between Kian and Martin? Could it be literally hold them up and give Hussein that advantage? But then now he has to put out 6 seconds to Thomas James and DJ Taylor. So I think that the German in the Mercedes has just thrown away their own podium on debut. They really have not thought that far in, because DJ Taylor and Thomas James 3 seconds at peace. It's not what they want, unless they're going to try and get Hussein ahead and then have them all hold up. But Hussein drops down to 5th. Martin Moore and DJ Taylor holding round as they are still going quite slowly now. Martin Moore, DRS on the Mercedes. Could it literally be get Hussein a podium but not him? You can tell I'm just lost as Sahil now caught up to the back of this Fire Striker, and Zezin also catching at the moment as onto their final lap. But for the last time this race, it's Sahil who's found the wall, as DJ Taylor trying to overtake Hussein, not DJ Taylor, Thomas James. However, without further ado, round the final corner comes the Haas driver. He's been unchallenged most of this race. Of course, he hasn't led start to finish, but it'll be Zezin Domar who wins in Mexico. And then it's Kian who's unfortunately throwing away a podium for their teammate. DJ Taylor going to be picking up P3 as a result. Hussein coming home in fourth, but you can just see that Mercedes is going very slowly round this circuit, which I'm not too sure about, but yeah, whatever that was, I'm not going to question too heavily, as Kian goes into the wall there and just intentionally retires. So that is a race ban for the Mercedes, a lovely way to end that race. So it'll be Hussein who comes home P2, as quite a few changes in pecking order unravels. And there is Martin down P6, Sahil P5, Thomas James 4th, DJ Taylor in 3rd, and then it's Fire Striker who comes out 7th. However, yeah, that is is Zezin Domar who wins, followed by Hussein a minute and 2 seconds, splitting the top 2. DJ Taylor 3rd, Thomas James 4th, Sahil 5th, Martin in 6th, Fire Striker 7th. Then it's Kian, Harrison, Mad Max, Ramati, Ali, and a local chemist who all failed to finish today. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.